Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 79 of our Be a Better You annual challenge. We're doing one thing every day this year to be a better version of ourselves, to be a better human, to be a better you. Why? Because everybody else is taken and you can't be anybody but yourself. So why not be the best possible version of yourself that you can be? This month we're focusing on communication as part of the life framework. I use a 9-part life framework to take some of the chaos and craziest stuff that happens in my life and put a framework or a structure around it to make it easier to navigate and create the life and the things that I want in my life. So today we're talking about listening skills, all about listening skills. And I think I've been pretty open and honest about this is an area that I will be working on my entire life. I think it's why I like doing coaching and consulting, is it forces me to zip my lip and pay attention, listen, focus in on and figure out how I can help and serve the person that I'm communicating with or the group I'm communicating with. I meet a lot with board of directors and big groups of people that are trying to improve their organization, supersize and grow it. So today I want to talk about a few different listening skills that I think are critical that all of us need to develop if we don't have them already or continually improve. And I shared Kat's story. I do a write-up every day. I haven't been sharing it. If you want me to share the write-up every day that I do on the topic that we're discussing, put write-up in the comments below. Otherwise, I'm not going to take the time and energy to copy and paste and share them in our group. They're normally in our private Facebook group for this year's challenge. But again, if it's not adding value to you and nobody's accessing them, then I'm not going to do it. So, number one, bar none, my favorite listening skill is active listening. What the heck is active listening? Active listening is shutting off all the crazy thoughts in your brain, focusing on the person that you're listening to, listening for understanding, being present in the moment with that person, not listening to thinking about how you're going to respond or what you're going to say or what you need to do, but actually giving your full attention to that person so that you can listen with understanding, so that you can be empathetic, so that you can figure out the emotions and the feelings and what's really behind the message and the words that they're saying. Because a lot of times I know when I'm communicating, I will be saying one thing, but inside me, my head is screaming another thing, but I'm trying to think of a nicer way of saying it versus what I really want to say or what I cutting to the chase. Now, I tend to be a very direct person who probably cuts to the chase a lot sooner than I should in some instances. But there's other instances when I'm trying to be present and actively listening and really trying to understand the other person's point of view and perspective on the topic that we're discussing, that I need to really hone in on, shut down all the other monkey mind things and really look at and focus and pay attention to that person. People know if we're listening to them or not, right? I mean, all the time. A lot of times I'll be working on my computer and my granddaughters or my daughter or my son-in-law or my son will talk to me and they know darn well that I'm on my computer doing something. So I'll say, hey, wait a second. Let me stop what I'm doing in a natural break quickly here, and then I can give you my full attention and figure out what we're talking about, what the conversation is. Now, not all conversations require that level of listening, right? But the important ones do. And frankly, we pretty much give the same superficial level of attention to all of our conversations. And we need to stop doing that. We need to really start listening to one another and hearing one another. Because a lot of times when we're communicating or saying something, we're communicating more out of fear and wanting to be understood than we're communicating out of a way to understand. And we need to really get back to, we understand one another, we talk to one another, we respect one another as human beings, and that will go a long way in improving our listening and what we even allow ourselves to hear. One thing about our senses and our bodies is they're very good at tuning out all the stuff that we don't need to know. Why? Because there's too much coming at us at any given time. All the signals, all the messages, verbal, or all the sounds, all the noise, everything's vying for our attention. And I personally, I use a lot of technology and I use my phone and my computer as tools, but otherwise I'm trying more and more to just stay off of them and away from them, especially with all the noise that's been going on in the media for the last couple of decades and all of the the way it's being presented. We need to really protect ourselves and filter ourselves from a lot of it, because a lot of it doesn't add value. I've noticed this year I've gotten sucked into a lot of the posting and a lot of the political stuff online, and I don't want to waste any of my time and energy on that. I have ways that I can positively contribute to the world. Me commenting on social media is not one of them, right? It just isn't. It doesn't add value, especially if you're, and if I'm going to say for me, especially if I am just posting to comment on something that I don't even want to comment on. I got sucked into a conversation that I don't even care about. And I just made a comment on it that I can't remember what it was. It was pretty neutral and just got barraged with negative messages. And I bowed out of it. And I told the originator of that post, I am bowing out of this conversation because I literally do not have the time, energy, and bandwidth or the desire whatsoever to argue with people that think they're experts in things, but they're actually not. And I know I wasn't an expert at all in the thing that they were talking about. I have a totally different perspective coming at it from a business owner standpoint. And so it just doesn't make sense to do that. And nowadays, there are so many fake accounts that a lot of times you're just arguing with somebody or a fake bot or an AI that's been paid or programmed to argue with you. So who needs that kind of frustration? None of us. And that's not listening anyway. We're not listening when we're tweeting back and forth or when we're texting back and forth. Generally, we're not listening. So practicing active listening skills is my number one favorite. Pausing before responding. Are you taking a deep breath, really thinking about and trying to understand what the person was saying before you respond? And acknowledging the other person's perspective, asking questions, avoiding interruptions. I was married to someone who you could never interrupt, because if you ever asked a question, and to me, asking a question for clarification was not a rude interruption. It was, hey, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Can you circle back and fill the blanks in for me? I'm sorry, I just used that phrase. I don't like that. Could you go back and say it again for me? Because he'd start all over at the beginning of the conversation. So you'd have to listen to the whole 5-minute introduction again, which is super frustrating, which is, I think, part of why I started tuning out and not listening, because I want you to tell me what you want to tell me, and then give me a minute or two to think about it and decide if I'm going to respond or if I'm going to ask questions, etc. And I don't want you to start all over at the beginning. It's mind-boggling to me. And that's something that I'm getting better at, is just listening and not worrying about that some people need to start over again, right? That's just the way they process things. Seek to understand, really seek to understand, not to win in a conversation. It's not a conversation. It'll destroy your relationships faster than anything if you feel like you have to always one up or battle or win in a conversation. Active listening, reflective listening. Reflective listening is reflecting back to the person what you heard them say and testing for understanding if you're guessing correctly what their intent and motivation and where they're coming from is. What else did I circle? Active listening. I just did a couple of lists of different topics about communication. I want to make sure we cover them, so I'm just going to talk about a couple of them today. Asking clarifying questions. When you're having a conversation with someone, do you ask them clarifying questions? Do you summarize for clarity what they said and repeat back to them, hey, this is what and you can just say, hey, this is what I hear you saying. Do I have this right? Am I understanding you correctly? Manage defensive responses. If you're doing defensive responses, it's not a conversation. It's a little battle. And who needs more of those in our life? I don't know about you, but I certainly don't. I choose not to have very many verbal battles. And I'm choosing more and more to not participate in things that don't feel right to me. So these are some of the tools that you can choose from. I'm going to grab this list. Active listening, being present, really paying attention and giving the person your full attention, not interrupting, self-reflection, or avoid interrupting. A lot of times when we interrupt somebody, it gets them off the track of what they were saying and what they were thinking and how they were trying to share. And that's why interrupting is so bad. Now, I come from a long line of interrupters and talkers. I come from a talking family. Like, if you ever go to any of our family events, the decibel level raises as each new person joins the party or joins the celebration. It gets really loud. And that's because we're all talkers. We are a family of talkers. Doesn't make it good or bad, right or wrong. It just means we are. And so I know that I have a propensity to yap instead of listening. But that's why we have 2 ears. 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I remember first hearing that saying and thinking how powerful it is. Ask questions. Questions are such a powerful way to get more information, really understand. Again, I say often, listen, because people will tell you everything you need to know to help them and serve them better and be in a better relationship, to communicate better, if you just listen to them and really, really hear what they're saying to you. Avoid interruptions. Repeat back what you've heard. Acknowledge the person. Acknowledge your feelings. Acknowledge their perspective and point of view, even if you don't agree with it. Just because you're acknowledging it doesn't mean you're reinforcing it and agreeing with it. It just means you understand what they said. So today, what are we going to do? We're going to practice listening skills, a listening skill. Pick at least one and practice it today. Me, I'm practicing active listening. That is my number one skill to practice. Pretty much every day I need to practice it. That's it. Any questions? You know to ask me. Hit me up. Otherwise, have a fantastic day. Have fun with this. Becoming a great listener will open doors for you that you never even dreamt possible, and show you opportunities that you've been missing because they've been there all along, but you haven't been open to them. All right. Have an awesome day, and I'll, of course, be with you tomorrow.